You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And now, here's your host.
And we're back. It's great to have with us once again Alyza Lewin, president of the Lewis Brandeis Center for Human Rights Under the Law, a nonprofit organization which is to advance the civil human rights of the Jewish people, pro-justice for all. She's a co-founder and partner in Lewin with her father, Nat Lewin, who I know for many years as well. And last had her on with the Ben & Jerry's case, dealing with the Israeli owner and his fight against Ben & Jerry, who took away his franchise. Welcome back to the program. Thank you for joining us. Alyza, good Shavua Tov. Okay, we just got to get your sound. You may just want to go back in. You make sure your microphone, maybe just exit and come back in, because we're also live on YouTube for those that are watching us on YouTube as well. So maybe just, can you hear me? So maybe just exit the program, then just come right back in. And we'll be looking at Harvard University, where they have to be pro. And, okay. Where they had to eat crow. And when they have to admit that, listen, they were challenged. There were a couple lawsuits dealing with anti-Semitism. So in Harvard University. So unfortunately, because there have a lot of Jewish students that are there, and they're the ones that had suffered. In fact, the Shabbos Kesem was one of them. We've had them many times on the air dealing with the situation that was there. Okay, we're going to establish contact with Alyza Lewin in Washington, D.C. Okay, and log back in. And she's been on program. Her father, Nat Lewin, has been on with us for so many years as well. So okay, look, I can hear you, but you cannot hear me. So you have to go out of the program and come back in. Okay, let's do that. And well, of course, we'll take your phone calls during this segment as well. Out and come back in.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. So okay, all the latest technology is that we have. Okay, so we'll establish contact. And you know, Harvard University is a wonderful institution of educational. In fact, Alan Dershowitz, we'll try to have him on talking about. He spoke about Harvard for many times over the course of the last couple of years and been outspoken. Harvard University has changed. And while you have Orthodox students there and you have Jewish students there, but the atmosphere is not what it was. And people and Jewish students themselves felt threatened by going to Harvard University. And while things are better this year than last year, and I asked my daughter and my son-in-law who do attend Harvard, and part of the reason is that it's cold, and all these protesters will only protest when it's warm and fuzzy outside. When it's really cold, they don't want to protest. But I also think that a new change of administration and the rules that are out there make it more difficult. Alyza, are you able to hear me? You're not able to hear me? Okay. Put on your earpiece or, okay. Well, I can hear you, but you cannot hear me. Okay. Modern technology. But I was saying is that, you know, with these protesters are very brave when it's nice out there, and they even demand that they want to get, you know, sandwiches delivered to them, and they can be hostile to passerbys. They're not just anti-Semitic, they're anti-American. People don't realize that. A lot of them are agitators. They are anarchists, some of them. They're professional protesters, especially in New York. In Columbia, that's been proven. I dare say it's not different in Harvard and other places, the same thing. But unfortunate, you know, that situation exists, and we have to live with it. We have to fight, and one of the ways that we've been fighting, of course, has been through the legal system, which is what we're going to tackle in our broadcast tonight, dealing with that. dealing with the legal system and how it does work. And in the case of Harvard, we're going to speak to Alyza Lewin in just a moment or so, and we will tell you how it works. Okay, you're able to hear me now?
I can hear you.
Terrific. Welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I was telling Roy about Harvard, but the last time we spoke was about Ben & Jerry's, about how you represented the Israeli owner in his fight against Ben & Jerry's. He won the battle, but there's something brewing with Ben & Jerry's now again?
There's something brewing, but not connected to our client. Yes. So I think Ben & Jerry's and Unilever are... I think Ben & Jerry's is unhappy with Unilever, but as far as our client, he was sold the rights to continue to manufacture and sell the Ben & Jerry's ice cream in Israel using the Hebrew and the Arabic logos. He's moving forward. He's manufacturing the same Ben & Jerry's ice cream as he's been doing for years, with the original Ben & Jerry's recipes and ingredients. And so Ben & Jerry's in Vermont can have their issue with Unilever, but it's not impacting him at all.
Terrific. So you had one victory there. And with Harvard University, tell us about it, because there is at least a couple of lawsuits against the school for anti-Semitism, not protecting Jewish students, and really disregarding for anti-Semitism that exists on campus. And there was some protests, and it was nasty, and Jewish students were intimidated. They didn't care. They had to be sued. So tell us about it. You brought lawsuits, and you had a big victory. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. So yes, there were a couple of lawsuits filed against Harvard University for the anti-Semitism on the campus there, and we just in the last couple of weeks reached a settlement with Harvard, which is a wide-ranging settlement. It's really requires more of Harvard than you've seen in any of the settlements up until now. Harvard has agreed that they are incorporating the IHRA, the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism, and that they'll be utilizing it when they are reviewing complaints of anti-Semitic harassment and discrimination. They'll also be including training on anti-Semitism and on the IHRA definition. And they've recognized, and they are putting out what they call a frequently asked questions document about their anti-discrimination policy that includes very specific language about how Zionists can be targeted. And so that language says, it includes the following, which says, for many Jewish people, Zionism is a part of their Jewish identity. Conduct that would violate their non-discrimination policy of targeting Jewish or Israeli people can also violate the policy of directed towards Zionists. Examples of such conduct include excluding Zionists from an open event, calling for the death of Zionists, applying a quote-unquote no Zionist litmus test for participation in any Harvard activity, using or disseminating tropes, stereotypes, and the conspiracies about Zionists, e.g. Zionists control the media, or demanding a person who is or is perceived to be Jewish or Israeli to state a position on Israel or Zionism to harass and discriminate. So Harvard has also, in addition to this language, agreed to hire a person who will be specializing in focusing on the anti-Semitic discrimination in terms of reviewing the policies and consulting and making sure that the policies are applied uniformly across the board, no more double standards for Jewish students. They're also going to have programming. The Brandeis Center will be doing some programming, and some of our clients had been students at the Harvard Kennedy School who had part of the harassment that they had experienced is they had wanted to put together a project on Israel as a Jewish democracy. And their professor said that that was an offensive topic, just the notion of Israel as a Jewish democracy. And so they were denied the opportunity to kind of present this project to their whole section. And so now they're being invited back to organize a program on Israeli Jewish democracy to the Harvard Kennedy School.
Does this end all lawsuits regarding anti-Semitism against Harvard?
So this actually, no, because so it ends our lawsuit, the Brandeis Center's lawsuit, and there was a lawsuit brought by the Kasowitz law firm on behalf of a group students against anti-Semitism. So Shabbos Kessemam is continuing his lawsuit. What will happen is now we have ended up with the systemic changes. In other words, the university agreeing to make these specific changes. Shabbos will continue to negotiate and litigate for certain financial damages because he's no longer a student there. But he will also be able to get some discovery. And so he may, in the process, expose some additional conduct that Harvard may end up having to address as well. So he's going to continue his lawsuit, but the lawsuits dealing with the systemic changes have now been resolved.
Would you say that having a new president, Donald J. Trump, at the helm forced Harvard University to say, let's settle, because they're taking the administration taking a tough stand against anti-Semitism on college campuses?
There is no doubt that the new administration and the Trump administration impacted not just Harvard, but numerous others. If you saw, there were a whole flurry of schools that rushed to settle their administrative complaints that had been filed with the Department of Education. And so just in the final days before President Trump came into office, there were several universities that settled their anti-Semitism claims with the Department of Education too. So that was clearly, it appeared to be a motivating factor. And you see from the executive orders that that President Trump has already issued how seriously his administration is taking anti-Semitism.
Now, in the case of Shabbos Kesem, he said on this program, so it's not a secret I can share with you, is that prior to October 7th, he took a class where it was entitled Israel is Colonialism and Colonial Settlers. So he took that class, and there was a hostile atmosphere. And in order to get an A in the course, he had to write a paper attacking Israel.
It's a major problem. I would say it's almost like its own pandemic. I mean, it is sweeping the country in terms of the courses that you see now and universities across the country that actually erase and deny Jewish history and Jewish heritage. His class is not unique. I hear from students all the time, and I'll tell you, there just was, for example, last semester at Boston University, not just a class. What you have to understand is that there is a narrative now that has taken hold and taken root on campuses across the country. And that narrative denies that the Jews are a people. It says, Jews, you're just a religion, you're just a faith. But the idea of Am Yisrael, the idea that we are also a people, and that as a people we have a history that is rooted in the land of Israel, right? That we are indigenous to the land of Israel, that they say that's fabricated, that doesn't exist. And last semester at Boston University, the group Students for Justice in Palestine actually put together a booklet which they called Smash Zionism. And it starts by saying, what is Zionism? And I'll quote for you. It says, we do not accept the term Jewish people in any form whatsoever. And it goes on to say, for us, there's only one Jew, like all Jews know there's only one God, and that is a religious Jew. So in other words, the narrative now on the campuses goes like this. It says, everything that ever happened in the Holy Land since creation is Palestinian. Yes, it acknowledges there were Jews, there were Christians, there were Muslims, but those are just faith-based religious identities. They claim that the cultural, ethnic identity of every human being that has ever lived in that land is Palestinian. That's how some people may have heard this idea that Jesus was a Palestinian. Right? Everybody's a Palestinian is their ethnic identity. And then they say we know the difference between the Jew and the Zionist. They say the Jew is the one who accepts that they're just a faith, they're just a religion. The Zionist, they say, is the one who insists on this idea of Jewish peoplehood, that there's also an Am, there's a people of Israel that unites Jews around the globe, and that somehow they have this ancient connection to this land. They say, no, the Zionist is the one they accuse of erasing and denying Palestinian history and heritage and calling it Jewish. And now they've gone so far as to come up with a term they call anti-Palestinian racism, where they say anything that pushes back against this narrative, this Palestinian narrative, is racist. So now if you have a Jew who says, I define my identity as part of a people indigenous to the land of Israel, that makes them a Zionist, then they say you're a racist, because by the mere fact of you claiming that as your identity, they claim you're now somehow erasing the Palestinian identity, and that makes you a racist. This is today's Zionism equals racism. We're right back to that.
So how do we combat it?
I think we combat it, first of all, by saying that we are Am Yisrael, right? That we are our whole essence, right? The whole way that we have defined our Yiddishkeit and our Jewish identity for millennia has been as a people, right? We have religious beliefs, we have religious practice, but we also are an Am, and we were an Am that lived, right? We're a nation and a people that have lived in this land as a people for millennia. And the notion that anybody is trying to erase or deny that, we can't let that happen. I actually think that today, our enemies have decided, you know what, you don't actually have to kill Jews. You just pretend their identity doesn't exist. And the sad fact is that there are so many Jews who don't define their identity by religious belief and religious practice. The last little thread, right, that they have in terms of their Jewish identity is they still believe they're part of the Jewish people. They may mark that Pesach Seder because they feel, yeah, my ancestors were liberated from slavery in Egypt. Or they may mark Hanukkah because they believe their ancestors were the Maccabees. If we allow our enemies to pressure those Jews whose connection to Yiddishkeit is hanging by a thread, that they should sever that thread because somehow the idea of being part of the Jewish people makes them a pariah, makes them unwelcome on campus, makes them be equated with evil, right? If we allow that to happen, they're going to
But you know what? The reason why it happens, and I remember doing a program before Passover last year, parents had to take workshops who were pro-Israel. How do you deal with your kids who come back from college that are anti-Israel? There are actually workshops helping parents with that. And by the way, this is not only true of Jews, evangelical Christians, the next generation are anti-Israel. And I asked one of the pastors, why are they anti-Israel? You guys are so pro-Israel, more pro-Israel than some Jews. And the answer I was told, they go to a lot of these evangelical Christians go to these woke colleges, and they come back with these woke philosophies. So the question, though, and I know that Harvard will define anti-Semitism differently, but you have these professors, some of them Jewish. Alan Dersher says the Jewish studies program, the biggest danger to Jews on campus. Probably right. But you also have woke professors that are teaching and brainwashing these kids and giving them a hard time and selling Israel short and saying all these terrible things about Israel. And these kids pick up on it. So, yes, you can have this beautiful definition of anti-Semitism, which Harvard recognizes. But as long as the teachers in the classrooms are teaching this false narrative, we got a problem.
So that's why I think that the answer is, first of all, we can't fall into the trap of trying to respond to this as if what they're doing in the classroom is a political debate. It's not a political debate. It is a very determined effort to dehumanize, demonize Jews, in particular Jews who define our identity as part of a people. And, you know, I think it's essential, right? What's essential is for us to respond to this by saying this is what we've called now erasive anti-Semitism. What you're engaging in is a very deliberate effort to erase and deny the history and heritage of my people. And we can't let them do that, right? That cannot be accepted. And it needs to be confronted as the erasure and denial of our identity as a people. That's, you know, because the truth is, if you think about it, so Einat Wilf, who's a former Knesset member, came up with this. She calls it the placard strategy. And we saw this way before, just like you say, Shabbos Kesema, before October 2023. I mean, this was going on for years. You saw on campuses what was essentially, when she calls it the placard strategy, this simple equation, which was the Star of David, a Magen David, equals the Zionists, equals whatever the evil concept is, right? It started with apartheid or ethnic cleansing, right? Now we're talking genocide. Nobody was putting that out there in order to have a conversation about, well, does this actually meet the legal definition of apartheid? Does it meet the legal definition of genocide? No, they just wanted to hammer into the heads of everyone in the university community the idea that that Jew, the Star of David, is a Zionist, is evil.
They don't know what that means. They interviewed a professor in California, and he said that Israel is committing genocide. So they asked him, what is genocide? And he says to a student, what is genocide? You can't make this stuff up. They're just parroting some of these things. But it's a problem because enough people are saying these things, and they believe it, even though they don't understand what it means. They don't know what it means from what river, what sea. They have no concept what's happening in Israel and the whole history. And that's a big issue. But the fact is that you have teachers and educators that are doing this, and there's really a whole movement against Israel. In fact, in New York, I believe one of the teachers' unions just over the weekend wants to divest from Israel. The CUNY professors want to divest from Israel.
The unions are some of the worst, but it's also because there has been this very deliberate effort to try and poison the unions, right? And they have been totally influenced by this narrative, right, which is painting Israel, right, or anybody who supports Israel as the evil colonizer. I mean, if you think about it, think about how anti-Semitism works. Anti-Semitism always takes whatever that generation views as evil. Today, that's going to be racism, apartheid, colonialism, right? And it blames the Jew. That's the one thing that's consistent about anti-Semitism through the generations, that the Jew is always going to be the scapegoat. And then what it does is it says, well, if the evil, right, if the cause of our misfortune, and this is a conspiracy theory because it's not based on anything, any facts, it's just easier to blame the Jew. So then the idea is if the Jew is to blame, society would be better without the Jew. So then the Jew gets pushed out of acceptable society, right? Look at think, for example, of the yellow Star of David that the Nazis had the Jews wear. We're gonna isolate those. You don't engage with the person wearing that yellow star. And then it escalates, right? The ADL has what they call their pyramid of hate, and they show how it starts at the bottom with just biased attitudes, and then it escalates to shunning, to the slurs, then it'll escalate to the actual exclusion and the discrimination, and then it escalates to violence, to assaults, and to vandalism, and all the way at the top is the genocide.
That's a Torah perspective. One of the perspectives is that when we say in the Haggadah of Passover that they did evil, Yerei or son of Mitzrayim, they did evil to us. You can also interpret they invented evil about us. They have a problem in Germany. How do you put Jews in concentration camps when they did so much to help society? The answer is like they did in Egypt. First, you vilify them. You say they're terrible, they're exploiting, they're taking advantage, they're stealing, they're doing whatever. Once you vilify, then you can persecute them. They did it in Egypt, they did it in Germany. So what the ADL says is really a Torah concept.
Exactly, because you dehumanize them, and then you can do what's worse. And the universities mistakenly think, oh, it'll blow over, right? If I ignore it, it'll go away. It doesn't go away, it gets worse.
Alyza de Lewin is our guest, president of the Louis D. Brandeis Center for Human Rights on the Law, co-founder and partner in Lewin & Lewin, and they had a big victory against Harvard University. We're going to be right back. And if you'd like to chime in our conversation, our numbers are 212-769-1925, 212-769-1925. If you are at college or you have students attending college, then please give us a call back. 212-769-1925 or email zev@talklinenetwork.com, zev@talklinenetwork.com. We're going to be right back. Coming up a little while, Tzvika Klein, editor-in-chief of the Jerusalem Post. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Stay tuned. This is the Talkline Network.
Most people don't have enough life insurance. How do you know if you have the right amount, the right type, the most cost-effective policy to protect your family when you need it the most? Hi, this is Ann Lowy, independent life insurance expert for over 35 years. I help my clients navigate all that. And because I'm independent, my loyalty is to you, the client, not the big insurance companies. I'll help you get the best deal out there. After all, you go to a doctor when you need medical advice. You go to a lawyer when you want legal advice. You go to a rabbi for halakhic advice. You should go to an insurance professional to get the right policy for you and your family. Call me and I'll help you figure it all out. Again, my loyalty is to you, my client. Phone 646-335-5519. 646-335-5519.
Did you know my mom's gonna have a baby? She is? Will it be a boy? Or will it be a girl? We don't know yet, but we heard the heartbeat and my dad said this is gonna be someone very special. You mean like being a president? Or maybe a doctor? Well, probably maybe like a singer or dancer, I think.
Hello, my name is Marianne Koharski. I'm the director of Pro-Life Across America. We know every baby is a miracle and has the potential to do great things. This season, we hope you will consider supporting the work of Pro-Life Across America. We're non-political and totally educational. Your gift will help offer life-saving alternatives and pregnancy assistance to those in need. Visit our website at prolifeacrossamerica.org or like us on Facebook.
A baby's heart is beating 18 days from conception.
The world has noise. It's now the season of the major Super Bowl game.
Super Bowl Sunday is coming, and it's not a game, it's a feast. Score big with events by Hamish Gourmet. Their Super Bowl special feeds 8 to 10 people with a touchdown platter of chicken, hors d'oeuvres, buffalo wings, and coleslaw for just $249. Craving more? Choose from their mouth-watering touchdown platters with pulled beef nachos, deli wraps, and chicken fingers, or their kickoff trays with mild and spicy buffalo wings and crunchy chicken fingers. Don't get caught offside. Hamish has you covered with Frankenblanks, french fries, mini knishes, and halftime salads. To order, touch down at Hamish at 182 West Englewood Avenue in Teaneck, or call 201-644-5100. That's 201-644-5100 for delivery to the West Side, Bergen County, and Rockland. Hamish Gourmet will have you shouting touchdown all Super Bowl Sunday.
Park East Synagogue invites you to join them for Shabbat Chazonot Shabbos Shira, a beautiful Shabbat experience at the Park East Synagogue Kadesh Medical Academy, featuring Rabbi Arthur Schneier and Chief Cantor Yitzhak Meir Halfgut, with the Park East Synagogue Choir conducted by Maestro Yossi Schwartz. Friday night services at 5:15 p.m., followed by Shabbat dinner. Shabbat services in the morning, 8:30 a.m., followed by Gala Kiddush and lunch. Gourmet Kiddush Shabbat dinner and lunch. Hotel accommodations available upon request. All takes place February 7th through February 8th. For more information, go to parkeysynagogue.org or call them 212-737-6900. That's 212-737-6900. Don't miss Shabbos Shira, Shabbos Chazonut. The World Jewish Expo is the place to be if you're a yeshiva, college day, a sleepaway camp, daycare, nursing home, college, hotel, nonprofit, and bungalow colony. You'll find unbeatable deals on everything from entertainment, banking, insurance, and kosher food to medical equipment. With over 260 vendors and 2,000 attendees, the 19th annual World Jewish Expo, incorporating the Camp Expo, is Sunday, February 16th at Meadowlands Expo Center. Crafted by seasoned event producer Charlie. This isn't your average showcase. It's where quality vendors and attendees converge for transformative business exchanges. So call 718-633-0733. That's 718-633-0733. Or visit jewishexpos.com to reserve your spot today.
Podcasts are everywhere, but cutting through the noise is tough. Did you know of the 5 million podcasts worldwide? Half of them only get 30 listeners? Want to reach a bigger audience? Think radio. Talkline Network gets you targeted listeners who are ready to engage with your message. Host your own show with us and supercharge your podcast's reach. We'll help you connect with the right audience. For a free consultation, call Talkline Network today at 212-769-1925, extension 100. That's 212-769-1925, or email zevbrenner@gmail.com. That's 212-769-1925, extension 100.
Looking to turn heads and grab attention? Media Depot's got you covered. Bold branding, sleek designs, scroll-stopping ads, dynamic videos, and jaw-dropping websites. Yeah, we do that. Catchy copy? Check. Social media that dazzles? Double check. We make your business pop. From mom-and-pop shops to corporate giants, we take your brand to the next level. Media Depot, where creativity meets results. Let's make something unforgettable. Contact us today. Call 212-516-8216 or visit MediaDPT.com.
Hey, this is Alan Dershowitz. One of the most important Jewish institutions in the world today is Talkline with Zev Brenner. He is so smart and he is so innovative and he has so many interesting guests. I don't know what Yiddishkeit, I don't know what New York, I don't know what the world would do without Zev. So Zev, Yasher Koach, may you go from strength to strength and keep informing us and educating us and keep fighting for Jewish values.
Thank you, Alan. 1 week from tonight, by the way, Rabbi Yeshua Balkany, Dean of the Beis Yaakov of Brooklyn, will join us.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981. Please call us with your questions and comments at 212-769-1925. That's 212-769-1925. Or email us at zevbrenner@gmail.com.
And we're back. Our guest, Alyza D. Lewin, president of the Louis D. Brandeis Center for Human Rights on the Law. She's a co-founder and partner with her father, Nat Lewin. It's called Lewin and Lewin. Big victory that she had against Harvard dealing with anti-Semitism. Let's take some phone calls. Let's go to Alexander in Brooklyn. Alexander, your question for our guest. Go ahead, Alexander.
Hi, I heard a lot and read about your guest and your father. Kol hakavod to everything they've done. I'm a former officer of the Soviet Army, and some of my trainers and teachers during the Cold War participated in this project called Palestine. The charter was created in Moscow. It's a KGB project that was an active phase starting 1964 to 68. And also Romanian Secret Service and Eastern German participated in it. They also trained the PLO Arafat people in Crimea and Eastern Germany. And also some of my teachers trained the Arab armies in Cairo and Damascus. So
your question to Alyza is?
So basically they should use this fact. It's a basically failed KGB project. Now I think all the PLO general staff behind it, all this, and of course a bunch of useful idiots in different countries, and they should use those facts to demolish all the Palestinian advocacy and propaganda activity. That's what should be done. They should involve counterintelligence and FBI in this for sure.
He's correct that the anti-Zionism began as Soviet propaganda. I mean, that whole theory and that whole approach does have its roots there. That's true.
Anyway, thank you, Alexander, for a call. Give us a call again, too. That's Danya. By the way, a lot of the anti-Semitism after October 7th was Russian and Chinese on TikTok and bots all over the world, unfortunately. Deborah in Newark, your question or comment for our guest. Go ahead.
Oh, all righty. Yes, thank you.
We haven't heard from you in a long time. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you, Zev. I appreciate that very much. And this subject is one I've been waiting for the right guest where I could ask my question. I'm a graduate of Harvard Divinity School, from class of 1980. I was a Hebrew Bible person. And when all this blew up what was that, 23, before October 7th, I could hardly recognize anything that Kassenbaum was. I'm not sure I have his last name correct, but
right. Shabbos Kassenbaum is his name. Yes.
Shabbos, yes, Kassenbaum. That I had such a hard time recognizing, the Harvard I knew of 50 years ago, and I was there simply as a scholar. I had nothing to recommend me except I was a scholar. But I knew what he was saying was had to be the case. But then after October 7th, when Columbia blew up, and I spent 10 years in a PhD program at Columbia from 1980 to 1990, I sure didn't recognize Columbia since October 7th till now. I mean, it's just, I was teaching some 30 years ago at Columbia, but I don't know how people face it down.
So your question to Alyza is?
Well, this is what I want to know. And thank you for getting me focused. I didn't mean to wax on down memory lane. But here's my question. Given that I want to know, other than the extremities of the situation with Shabbos Kassenbaum on the one hand, and then you have, Ackerman, who serves on the board of overseers and is very, very wealthy. Do you have any people in between who have been involved at Harvard, even if it was 50 years ago or 45 years ago, to add more to your experience? I don't know if you're an alum or if you have family or what, but I wonder if there are any other Jewish voices that are contributing to trying to create some sense of balance who are both Harvard and Jewish.
Well, I mean, there are
experientially. I mean, that's what I mean. Not someone who's in his 20s or someone who is
Right.
serving on the board and is very wealthy.
It is definitely true that Harvard could use some more established individuals speaking out like Shabbos does, to highlight the problems and to try and present some balance. I mean, that is one of the challenges there in terms of the faculty and in terms of the people there. But you had folks, like Dara Horn, who had tried and who was on the Anti-Semitism task force and then had to step down. But the hope now is that we'll be able to bring some more people to campus, bring some more programming, and have the university actually stand firm, and we hope do the right thing. I mean, they'll have to implement fully the agreement, but if they do, we hope that will start to turn the tide.
Henry, Deborah, good to hear from you again, and call us again.
Thank you, Seth. You take care, and thank you. I'm really grateful that I was able to hear you on the program this evening. That you're doing yeoman service, and you look like your head is just splitting in two. I was able to see you in the video, and I'm grateful for what you're doing.
Thank you, Deborah. Good call. But here's the thing, though. Schools like Harvard and others, some of them, you get the impression, and more than just an impression, don't really want Orthodox Jewish students. And they make it difficult. Yes, they're there. Even like Barnard used to be a lot of Orthodox students, and Columbia. But in the name of diversity, we have to have people from all over the country. It means I want less Jews and I want more others, right?
Yes. Well, diversity, the DEI programming and the
is it dead?
Well, we'll see what happens with this administration, but it has worked clearly to the detriment of the Jewish population. There's no doubt about it. Harvard Medical School, I was talking to, I think there's one, Jewish student outwardly Jewish student in the medical school. I mean, that unheard of, right? And that's been that way now on the decline, right, for the last several years.
Is that being addressed in your lawsuit or the settlement?
Well, they're not in terms of the admissions, but it's something that I have heard recently. And, it's not just Harvard, it's other schools across the country because of the emphasis on, admissions and trying to bring in people from other diverse backgrounds. And the problem is, and this is the issue, you have to understand the way Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, which is one of the most potent tools, legal tools that we have on the campuses. So Title VI applies to any entity that receives federal funds, and almost every university in the country receives some kind of federal funding, even the private ones. And it insists that the universities then have to protect against discriminatory practices, right? Everybody has to be able to have equal access to all the opportunities. The challenge, though, is that Title VI of the Civil Rights Act doesn't include religion as a protected category. So then the question is, how are you going to use it to protect Jews or Muslims or Sikhs, for that matter, any religious group, if it doesn't include religion? And so what has become the accepted understanding for now more than 20 years is that even though Title VI of the Civil Rights Act doesn't include religion, it protects members of faith-based groups when they're being targeted on the basis of their shared ancestry and ethnicity, as opposed to
there was a memorandum of understanding signed that Jews are now a minority in the United States.
So yes, that's separate, right? But the idea of Title VI is that the groups, right, that were designed to be protected by the civil rights laws shared this common ancestry. And the idea was that in the 1800s, even back then, Jews were actually considered a race to be protected by these civil rights laws. After the Nazis, it's become unpalatable to refer to Jews as a race, and today too. So that's why now the focus is more on calling it national ancestry, or a form of national origin discrimination on the basis of shared ancestry. And that's the way the Department of Education was handling it. Even before October 2023, we had filed, the Brandeis Center, complaints with the Department of Education that were involving anti-Zionist harassment and discrimination, the idea of a sexual assault survivor support group that was blocking Zionists, a book club that was blocking Zionists, a teaching assistant that was harassing Zionists online. And they treated it as a form of what they called national origin discrimination on the basis of shared ancestry. So the idea being that national origin discrimination is not limited to Israelis, but if you're Jews who view yourself as part of a people with this shared ancestral history, in other words, that's our Zionism, we're a people indigenous to the land of Israel, then you're protected under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. And so what's happening, as there's become this increased recognition that Jews are protected from harassment and discrimination that targets them on the basis of their shared ancestry and ethnicity, our enemies are saying, what are you talking about? You don't have a shared ancestry and ethnicity. You're just a religion. So unless it's targeting you on the basis of your religious practice, your religious belief specifically, where you're not protected, and it's not anti-Semitism, right? That's what they're saying. The criticism of Israel doesn't matter. I can do whatever I want because that's not anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is only if I attack your Judaism, if I attack your religious belief, if I attack your religious identity. But if I criticize Israel, but that's crazy because today, what's happening today is nobody's asking. When you have the encampments that are blocking Jews from reaching the dining halls and the libraries on campus, nobody was standing there saying, can you tell me what's your opinion on a two-state solution? What's your opinion about Prime Minister Netanyahu? No, they saw the person wearing a Magen David. They heard the person speaking Hebrew, and they said, you're out. We don't want you here. They had nothing to do with political opinions. It had nothing to do with viewpoints. It had everything to do with their identity.
It's a big lie. Anyway, Alyza D. Lewin, president of the Louis D. Brandeis Center for Human Rights under Law, co-partner, founder Lewin. Lewin, thank you for being here with us, and send best regards to your father for us.
I will. Thank you so much.
Great job. Thank you and look forward to having you back again too. Any big cases coming up we should know about?
Well, we're working on some more lawsuits, a couple of universities, and some additional complaints. Yeah, we're keeping very busy at the Brandeis Center, and we have a case that's also the the individual at the Jerusalem Cafe in Oakland, California, who was kicked out for wearing the baseball cap with a Magen David a couple months ago, that's also our client. So we're preparing a case on his behalf as well.
We'll have you back. Alyza, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Take care.
Alyza Lewin here on the Talkline Network. When we come back, we will speak to